Honestly, what did you even do? The real vision, the spark, that was all me. You were just the hands. The words hung in the air of the stark white gallery, sharp as the scent of fresh paint. Xavier stood under a single, brilliant spotlight, his shadow long and distorted on the polished concrete floor. His smile was a masterpiece of practiced charm, the kind that never quite reached his eyes. All around us, collectors and critics murmured their approval, their champagne flutes catching the light. Our biggest project, the interactive light sculpture Serafina, pulsed softly behind him, a constellation of our shared dreams. Or so I had thought. I looked down at my own hands, then back at him. "You're right," I said, my voice barely a whisper in the gallery's hum. I was just the hands. We met in a late-night coding for artists class at a community college a decade ago. Xavier was the magnetic one, all grand pronouncements and infectious energy, sketching impossible structures on diner napkins. I was the quiet one in the back, the one who could actually build the things he dreamed of. We bonded over a shared obsession with brutalist architecture and cheap Japanese whiskey. Our first real triumph was a design competition for a new city bus shelter. We won. We celebrated on the floor of my tiny apartment with a greasy pizza, sketching the logo for our future studio, Venworks, on the back of the box. That night, under the glow of my monitor, everything felt possible. The first red flag came a week later in the local paper's write-up. It was a picture of Xavier beaming standing in front of our finished shelter. The article quoted him extensively. My name was mentioned once in the final sentence as his technical assistant. When I brought it up, he draped an arm over my shoulder, his charisma a warm, heavy blanket. "It's just better for branding if one of us is the face, Talai. You're the brilliant engine, I'm the shiny hood. It's a partnership." I was 24. I believed him. For 7 years, Venworks was a golden cage. We landed big clients, Helios Lighting, the Oakhaven Cafe, a dozen boutique tech startups. Our aesthetic, his sweeping concepts, my meticulous execution was in demand. But a slow, creeping imbalance set in. I would be at the studio until 3 a.m., wrestling with a corrupted render file or debugging 1,000 lines of code. He would be at a client dinner at Per C, sending me photos of the tasting menu. He called it playing the game. I was too busy working to see who was actually winning. He'd pitch an idea, I'd build the entire project from the ground up, and he'd present it as our collaborative genius. The first crack in the foundation appeared by accident. I was working late on his laptop, trying to salvage a presentation he'd saved incorrectly. An email notification flashed at the top of the screen. The subject, Innovator of the Year, finalist notification. It was from the World Design Guild, congratulating Mr. Xavier Reyes on his sole submission for Serafina. My blood went cold. Our studio policy was that all award submissions were in both our names, always. For the next 3 weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I was the ever-dependable partner. By night, I became a forensic investigator. I didn't want to believe it. I ran a file recovery program on our server's backup drive and found the deleted drafts of his submission. He'd methodically edited my name out of every document. I logged into our QuickBooks account and saw the pattern for the first time. For 2 years, he'd been paying himself huge monthly, consulting fees, siphoning funds directly into a personal account. The total was over $85,000. I hired a discreet forensic accountant, a woman named Ms. Zimmerman, whose quiet intensity was the opposite of Xavier's flash. She confirmed everything. He was gutting the company I had built, while I was busy building it. Breaking point was the official gallery opening for Serafina. It was our masterpiece, a project that had consumed a year of my life. Our most important client, Mr. Vance, was there, completely captivated. Xavier, basking in the glow of the sculpture and the praise, put a proprietary arm around my shoulders. He smiled at Mr. Vance and said the words that would ignite the fire. "Talia is a godsend. I come up with these impossible ideas, and somehow she figures out the nuts and bolts. Couldn't do it without my brilliant technician. Technician, not partner, not co-creator, a tool, a pair of hands. In that sterile, silent moment, surrounded by our success, I finally understood. He didn't just want the credit, he believed he deserved it. My contribution in his mind was mechanical. The plan that had been a vague, protective instinct in my mind suddenly crystallized. It would not be about anger. It would be about precision. As he walked Mr. Vance through the sculpture's features, I noticed a detail he always ignored, the small engraved plaque at the base. It read, Serafina, by Xavier Reyes, Venworks. He had no idea that I had embedded a digital watermark deep in the sculpture's core programming, a hidden string of code containing my initials and the project's true start date, accessible only by a command sequence I had created. My life became a project of quiet strategy. My team consisted of Ms. Zimmerman and a lawyer, Mr. Wallace, a man who spoke in calm, measured paragraphs. My savings, nearly $22,000, vanished into their retainers. We had weekly calls, building our case piece by meticulous piece. One afternoon, Xavier nearly discovered everything. He saw a charge from Wallace Legal on a company card I'd used by mistake. My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my voice level. "Oh, that's just for trademarking that new font family I developed for the Helios project." Nodded, already distracted by an email about his award nomination, and the moment passed. The evidence folder on my laptop grew. There were 7 key pillars. 1. The original concept emails for Serafina sent from me to him. 2. Server logs showing my files were created weeks before his supposed vision documents. 3. The transaction records from QuickBooks, a neat trail of theft. 4. Text messages where he'd called my initial designs a good starting point for my vision. 5. A sworn affidavit from a freelance coder we'd hired who confirmed he only ever received technical direction from me. 6. The award submission forms where a digital analysis showed he'd crudely photoshopped my signature off our original partnership filings. And 7. The ironic godsend. An old college professor had emailed me directly, congratulating me on Serafina, saying he immediately recognized my signature data visualization style from my thesis project. Mr. Wallace constructed the perfect trap, a simple, low-stakes legal letter proposing a standard partnership dissolution. Xavier walked right into it, seeing it as a chance to buy me out for pennies on the dollar, the tired technician finally giving up. The real stage wasn't the mediation room. It was the World Design Guild Awards ceremony 3 months later. The auditorium was vast, a sea of black-clad architects and designers. Xavier was on stage with the other 2 finalists, looking impossibly handsome under the lights. After he presented Serafina to thunderous applause, a jury member, a woman my lawyer had discreetly supplied with a very concise evidence package, leaned into her microphone. Mr. Reyes, your work is groundbreaking. Could you walk us through the technical genesis of the reactive code? Xavier launched into his usual symphony of buzzwords: synergy, ideation, the flow of creative energy. But the juror didn't let up. Specifically, the particle rendering algorithm. What was its core logic? Auditorium was silent. Xavier's confident smile faltered. He looked like a man asked to explain the mechanics of a watch he'd only ever worn. He couldn't answer. The juror spoke again, her voice clear and cutting. We received some supplementary materials regarding the Serafina project. On the giant screen behind a confused Xavier, my first concept email appeared, timestamp and all. Then, the spreadsheet of his fraudulent consulting fees. A wave of gasps rippled through the audience. Final blow was delivered with surgical precision. The juror asked him to bring the sculpture's diagnostic interface up on the screen. There's a small digital watermark embedded by the primary coder for authentication. Could you please execute command TV-0771? He froze. His face went from confusion to sheer unadulterated panic. He didn't know the command. From my seat in the 10th row, I stood up. The spotlight operator found me. I said, my voice steady. All eyes, hundreds of them, turned to me. Xavier stared at me from the stage, his microphone picking up his horrified whisper. Talia, don't. I looked directly at him, the man who had erased me. You're right, I said, my voice carrying through the silent hall. I was just the hands. And these hands built the lock and hold all the keys. The fallout was immediate and spectacular. Venworks' implosion was trending on design Twitter by midnight. The next 24 hours were a blur of ignored calls, 47 from Xavier, and a flood of emails from clients. The guild publicly disqualified him for ethical violations, and a week later re-awarded the Innovator of the Year prize to me as the sole creator of Serafina. The lawsuit was a formality. Faced with irrefutable proof, he settled. The judgment forced him to sign over his half of the company and repay the $85,000 he stole, plus damages, for a total just shy of $150,000. 6 months later, a colleague forwarded me his new LinkedIn profile. He was a freelance brand consultant. The profile picture was a sad selfie, taken in the generic beige cubicle of a co-working space, the fluorescent lighting flattening his famous features. It was a world away from the soaring ceilings and custom oak desks of my studio. I renamed the company Talia Vance Design. My new apartment has a view of the city, a view I earned. My team is smaller, but they are loyal and they are credited for every single thing they do. There's a peace in the quiet hum of the servers, a calm that feels like clean, cold air. Last week, a potential new client was touring the studio. He stopped in front of the gleaming Innovator of the Year award on my shelf. Wow, he said. How did you do it all? I smiled, a real smile that reached my eyes. I had a great partner who taught me a valuable lesson, that the real vision, the spark, it comes from the hands that do the work. I finally own my own name.